Hey med students, it is your friendly neighborhood doc, and we're getting ready to start class. So let's go ahead and talk about the books that I picked up this week. I've got some books that I'm going to do in other videos, so let's go ahead and look at those first, and then I'll talk about the books that I read. All right, first off, for initial assessment, I'm going to be talking about Green Lantern Corps, Issue 1, by Jeremy Adams, Morgan Hampton, Fernando Parcerin, Claire Albert, and Arif Prianto. So look for that in the initial assessment video that's coming up. For greatest hits, I have Crisis on Infinite Earths, issue 9 of 12. I'm going to wait until I have all 12 issues to talk about this. But this was the miniseries from DC back in 1985, written by Marv Wolfman with art by George Perez and Jerry Ordway. And also under greatest hits, I'm going to talk about the Fantastic Four, issue 2, which follows up that amazing first issue of the Marvel Universe. This is by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And the last one I'm going to talk about in the upcoming greatest hits video is the Amazing Spider-Man issue 129, the facsimile edition, just like Fantastic Four. And this is the first appearance of the Punisher. I believe it is by Jerry Conway and Gil Kane. So look for those in a coming video. Now, the books that I picked up, we'll start with Amazing Spider-Man number 67. This is written by Justina Ireland with art by Bricardo. Let's see who we have. Andrea Bricardo and inks by Scott Hanna with colors by Marcio Menez. So we have the continuation of the eight deaths of Spider-Man. In this issue, we get to see the X-Men and Juggernaut take center stage against this champion whom Peter has refused to fight. So Juggernaut seems to be one of the ones that can hold his own against this champion because he's huge and powerful and physically imposing. So Doctor Strange actually has to come and explain to Peter, there's a casket. And I found out that this blight that's inside this casket is going to kill everything if it gets loose. Well, you have the brother of Syra who never really conceded. And so the blight has taken him. And he's decided that he's going to go and unleash this upon the world. And you get more Juggernaut fighting this Scion. And all of a sudden, you get the brother coming back with his rot dogs. This was not the greatest book ever. It was fun. It was entertaining. The artwork by Bricardo and Scott Hanna was very interesting, to say the least. But this didn't carry any heavy weight. This was not as entertaining and exciting as the last couple of issues have been. So I'm kind of hoping that before we see the end of this with issue 70, so 3 more issues, that maybe we can get some more heartfelt understanding of Peter and his situation, rather than just mopey Peter and that particular situation. So I'm going to have to say this one was not very fun, but as always, I will continue reading it because I've been reading it, and I hope for the best when Joe Kelly comes back on board, starting with the new #1 issue in April. All right, now what I did enjoy was Aquaman #2 by Jeremy Adams with art by John Timms. This continues the rebirth story of Arthur Curry, and we get to see him take on these characters using mud because there's water involved in mud. And then he meets, Jenny Greenteeth. And Jenny Greenteeth claims to know the blue. So you have the red, the gray, the blue, the green. It's almost like a Green Lantern series. The green is obviously for Swamp Thing, and then you have the rot, and you have the blue. So it's almost as though Jeremy Adams is going in the Swamp Thing slash Green Lantern direction of having all of these different various, I'm not going to say core, but these pantheons that control air and fire and the green in the world and the blue, the water in the world. And Arthur is captured and he meets this old-timer, as he calls him, and it turns out to be Arion, the former king of Atlantis. And all that Arthur is trying to do is find his people. They disappeared by the end of the first issue, and he's just trying to restore Atlantis. And this looks like it's going to be a story just like Green Lantern, where it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger with each issue. So I look forward to this. And if you're not reading Aquaman, go back up and pick that first issue up, and definitely pick this issue up because I think it was probably my issue of the week this week. All right, next up we have the final issue of Deadpool Team-Up. This is the swan song for Rob Liefeld at Marvel because he felt snubbed by not getting invited to the after party after Deadpool Wolverine. So he created all of these characters. He put all of this life and essence and energy into all of these characters. Shatterstar, Cable, Major X, Deadpool. And then you have Rob himself right there next to Deadpool. And then you get Spider-Gwen. So this is really Rob in his send-off from Marvel in the only way that Rob could do it, getting to draw the characters that he chooses to draw, and he's on his way out. He said never to work for Marvel again. We'll see whether that happens or not. But I think this was an entertaining story. It wrapped up very easily, but at the end of the day, it was just one of those that you have to shut your brain off and enjoy it as a comic, because you end up getting the reintroduction of Dragon Lord in this story. So, for excitement, just absolute blast to see Rob still working on these characters, and I can't wait to see what happens with him next. All right, next up we have Daniel Warren Johnson, Riley Rossmo, and Mike Spicer in The Moon is Following Us, issue 6. And you get the continuation of the story of Sam and Duncan, and they have been laid low in the last issue, but they meet Jebediah Swano, who is one of Penny's fears, and he's apparently a lord of spiders, something kind of like Morlun. And Sam and Duncan find out that in the last issue, Tash, who had been their friend, or at least they thought so, had his own ulterior motives. His daughter, too, had been corrupted and put to sleep, and only by reeling them in could he possibly revive his own child. And at the end of it, he turned on him and double-crossed him. So Jebediah, on the other hand, truly wants to help Penny because he realizes that Tosh was only ever looking out for himself, but Penny is an innocent in all of this. And so he wants to help Sam and her husband, Duncan, to save their daughter. And he even shows them that the weapons that they have chosen and used over the course of the series is not effective against these creatures. They get back up and strike at Sam. So this really added a lot of depth to this story. Like I said at the beginning of reading this series, the demasculation of Duncan and the super masculation of Sam kind of turned me off in this story. But now that I've read and dug into this, I'm glad that I've continued on with this series, because the artwork between Daniel Warren Johnson and Riley Rossmo is absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to see, now that they have hope, how these two hopefully save their baby girl by the end of this story. So If you're not reading this one, pick it up. All right. Spawn by Todd McFarlane, Brett Booth, and who do we have? Inks by Adelso Corona. So we have Brett Booth, who has been working on this title for a full 12 issues now, and still manages to knock it out of the park detail-wise each and every issue. We have the rebirth of Spawn, who died in the last issue, but it takes Nyx to bring him back because his continued existence is what fuels her plan and fuels her reign of hell. So you get these awesome action sequences, and you get to see that Spawn himself is back. So the only problem with that is not only is Spawn back to full power, but the dead zones have been opened back up. So anybody who had either Hell Spawn power or angelic power has been given that power back. So now the playing field has been equaled, and we can get back to all-out, balls-to-the-wall action in this series. So Uncle Todd Meister, doing what he does best. Awesome $2.99 comic book. All right, guys, we're almost at the end. You've got Transformers 17 by Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona, and colors by Mike Spicer. And as you see on the cover, you get to see one of the Decepticon jets seeing his brother trapped in the Ark, pretty much tied in, so that if any of the Decepticons try to retrieve him, he'll die. Meanwhile, you have Alita 1 in her search for Optimus and trying to figure out, well, actually in her search for Ultra Magnus, but trying to figure out why Optimus left. And she doesn't seem to have a whole lot of optimism herself. She doesn't seem to be happy that Optimus is trying to not only help the Cybertronians, but help the humans as well. So it's awesome to see the character development that goes on here. You get to see Ultra Magnus back into the fray. You get to see Optimus, and Wheeljack is talking to him, and he says, we need to figure out what happened back there. Why did you get so angry and so explosive? And Optimus says, I don't have time to go through that right now. I don't have time for a diagnostic. We've got to save as many humans as we can. So you get that, and then you get to go back on Cybertron, and you get to see this this core, of Autobots, led again by Alita 1, and Cliff Jumper being in there as well. Meanwhile, you also get to see Bruticus go against Devastator, one of the other combiners. So this book is just huge action, explosions. It's very much Michael Bay, but it's very much a story as well. You get to see how much love and energy and creativity Daniel Warren Johnson pours into this Transformers book to make it absolutely, hands down, the best book that he can do. And unfortunately, he's not drawing it anymore. Jorge Corona is there, but Jorge Corona has matched his art style very, very much so, and I can't wait to see how Daniel Warren Johnson finishes off the next issue and then leads into his last 6 issues to finish off his run on the title. All right, and our next to last book is Welcome to the Maynard, issue 3 of 4 for this particular miniseries. It will be coming back, but you have James Robinson as writer, Jay Bone as the artist. Ian Herring is doing colors, and letters by Jim Campbell. We have the continuation of the story of Pip here, and she is learning to be a private detective, but her girlfriend doesn't understand what she's doing, and she thinks that there's more to the story, so she feels like she's being lied to. Meanwhile, we have this battle of 2 mages, and they're supposed to fight at night on top of the roof, kind of as a nightly entertainment thing. But instead, one of them felt slighted by the other one, and they start fighting right there in the lobby. And that means that the general manager of the hotel has to come out, and she says, hey, listen, what if you hurt somebody? And so Margot manages to help have cooler heads prevail between these two. But the detective that's training Pip is starting to uncover what's going on, and we're starting to realize that somebody is going to die. Some character is going to die, but there's a method and a madness to this particular thing. It's not going to be random murder. It's going to be somebody has to die, and these are the particular circumstances, and this is how it's set up. You get to see one of the hotel staff members take Pip home, and she tries to talk to her girlfriend, and she wasn't having any of it. She said, I'm just tired. I want to go to bed. So you've got this mystery built up that you still see the awesomeness in the Maynard. I mean, it's just like the coolest hotel that you could ever stay in. It's a mixture of magic and delight, and it would be like if magic were truly in the world as a regular thing, and you got to go stay at this Disney castle, and Mickey was actually in Kingdom Hearts and fighting off different characters from that video game series. It would be like if magic stepped into this world. So it's fantastical in the normal, but it's really cool. It's really awesome, and I'm glad that James Robinson is here to write it for us, and Jay Bone is here to illustrate it for us, and I cannot wait for the conclusion of this first mini. All right, and the last issue is The Lucky Devils issue 2 by Charles Soule and art by Ryan Brown. We still have these two demons, little devils that are on the shoulders of these two characters, and as they're coming through, they're trying to build something for themselves in this world. They see that the hierarchy in hell is broken, and they want to fix it. And so in this issue, it's lust that they're using, and they're trying to build the two people, Cam and Star. You got Cam here, who's an adjunct professor, and Star, who's a nurse. They're trying to build their lives into something where they influence people. And it's not a YouTube influencer, it's not a TikTok influencer, it's a real, tangible thing that they're going to accomplish. I don't know that they're going to try to, put them at odds at the end of the series and try to make it where they go against each other so that only one particular devil wins the day. But right now, it seems as though they're trying to build these people up into something more professional. So the devil on Cam's shoulder helps him write a paper that gets published in a peer-related journal. And all of a sudden, he's the hot new thing. Two of the professors in that philosophy department get into a fight. One gets fired. He gets the job. Same thing with Star, who has been a low-level nurse for all these years. All of a sudden, she knows that Joe, one of the other nurses, has been doing stuff, but she catches her in the act of sleeping with one of the patients. Joe gets fired. She gets her job. So in this issue, through certain aspects of lust, they both better their own lives. But in that process, they are also becoming more influential to people, and their circles of influence are beginning to grow. So this is a really, really good title. I think it's got an interesting premise to go along with it. So I can't wait to see how this issue builds to issue 3. And let's continue going down this sin wagon to see how these characters grow and develop. Guys, that was a lot of books this week. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you each and every week coming and checking out these videos. What did you guys pick up from the comic shop? What is your interesting read of the week? What are you looking forward to most? What's at the top of your read pile? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you have a great Wednesday, and we will catch you guys in the next video later this week.